pregnant homeless woman found asleep outside the Millionaire CEO's building. What he did next was unbelievable. The cold drizzle of that Manhattan pre-dawn wasn't just water falling from the sky. It felt like icy needles piercing the skin of the unsheltered. It was 3 a.m. and Fifth Avenue, usually throbbing and loud, was drowned in a wet, perilous silence. For Clara, that silence was the sound of fear. At 24, with a prominent 7-month bump, she walked, dragging her feet. Her shoes, a pair of sneakers that had seen far better days, were soaked, and with every step, the cold water reminded her of her wretched condition. She wrapped her arms around her own belly, a futile attempt to protect the baby, who stirred inside, perhaps sensing his mother's anguish. Clara's story wasn't much different from the countless others the city swallowed whole. Until 2 days ago, she had a dingy, mold-ridden room in a condemned tenement building downtown. It smelled of mildew, but it was a roof. But her hustle, selling cheap umbrellas and bottled water at major intersections, had dried up dramatically with the onset of winter. People kept their windows rolled up tight against the cold and the insecurity, and her cash flow withered. The landlord, a man with no patience for sad stories, dumped Clara's few bags onto the pavement. Since then, she had been wandering. Exhaustion was a heavy anchor, dragging her down. Hunger was no longer a rumble in her stomach, but a constant gnawing, a headache that made her vision blur. "Hang in there, my son. Just a little longer," she whispered, her voice hoarse and shaky. She had to stop. Her legs, swollen from the pregnancy and the endless walking, threatened to give way. That's when she saw it. A massive, glass-fronted skyscraper with a deep, sheltering overhang protecting the entrance from the rain. There were no low metal railings blocking access, just the cold, dark glass of the facade. Clara looked around. The street was deserted. With her heart hammering in her throat, she approached. She leaned against the glass. The granite floor was frigid, but it was dry. That, at that moment, was luxury. She curled up as tightly as she could, trying to take up little space, trying to become invisible. She lay down in the fetal position, using her worn backpack as a pillow, and allowed exhaustion to claim her. While Clara slept the deep sleep of the desperate, the world spun differently for Arthur. Arthur was 32 and had the kind of success that drew both awe and envy. CEO of one of the nation's largest tech firms, he had the world in the palm of his hand. His bank account had more zeros than he could ever spend, and his name appeared in magazines as an example of discipline and innovation. But anyone who looked closely into Arthur's eyes would see that the light there was somewhat dimmed. He woke up every day at 4 in the morning, not just out of discipline, but because he couldn't stay in bed. His penthouse, a vast apartment decorated with priceless artwork, was too silent. The silence of Arthur's home was not peace. It was loneliness. He had no wife, no children, and his parents had long passed away. He filled that void with work. He was always the first to arrive and the last to leave. That morning, the rain hammered against the windshield of his luxury sedan as he maneuvered into the company garage. He liked this hour. The building belonged to him. The office silence was productive, unlike the silence at home. Arthur parked in his reserved spot, grabbed his leather briefcase, and walked toward the main entrance. He was about to unlock the automatic doors with his access card, a gesture he performed religiously every day, without paying much attention to his surroundings. But that morning, something broke his routine. His eyes, accustomed to seeking flaws in reports and contracts, fixed on a dark shape on the ground, right beside the revolving door. He stopped. The motion sensor lit up the entrance, illuminating the scene. It wasn't just a pile of old clothes. It was a person, and not just any person. The thin jacket had ridden up slightly, revealing the unmistakable curve of advanced pregnancy. Arthur's heart gave a strange lurch. A cold sensation, one that didn't come from the rain, ran down his spine. The image of that young, pregnant woman sleeping on the cold floor of his company hit him like a physical blow. Most men in his position would have called security. They would have contacted the front desk and asked them to remove the obstacle before clients arrived. That's the big city protocol: ignore, distance, clean up. But Arthur froze. An old memory, one he kept locked away in the back of his mind, began scratching at the door, desperate to escape. He approached slowly. The sound of his Italian loafers on the granite was muffled by the rain. He knelt down. He saw Clara's face, smudged, marked by exhaustion, but young, very young. She was shivering, even in her sleep. Arthur didn't think about company policy. He didn't think about the dirt. He didn't think about what people would say. Driven by a visceral impulse, he touched her shoulder. "Ma'am?" He called out, his voice softer than he expected. Clara woke with a start. Her eyes widened in panic. She tried to get up quickly, but her heavy belly and numb legs betrayed her. She slipped, hitting her back on the glass. I'm sorry. I'll leave right now, sir. Please don't call the police," she pleaded, covering her face with her hands, bracing for a shout, a kick, or a harsh order. Arthur felt a lump in his throat. He raised his hands in a gesture of peace. "Easy. No one is calling the police. It's all right." He took off his own tailored jacket, an expensive imported wool, and placed it over her shoulders. Clara paused, confused, feeling the warmth and the scent of high-end cologne emanating from the garment. "You're freezing," Arthur said, "and you can't stay out here. I have nowhere to go." The confession came out in a whisper, heavy with shame. Arthur looked at his company's door. Then he looked at her. "Can you stand up? I'll help you." He extended his hand. Clara hesitated. His hand was clean, soft, firm. Hers was grimy from the street, but his gaze held no disgust. It held a sad urgency. She took his hand. Arthur guided her inside. They passed through the empty reception area, entered the private elevator. Clara looked at her reflection in the elevator mirrors, seeing her own deplorable image next to this impeccable man, and she wanted to weep. When they reached the top floor, Arthur took her straight to his office. It was a vast space with a panoramic view of the gray city. He made her sit in the executive leather armchair. "Stay here. It's the warmest spot." In the minutes that followed, Clara watched, stunned, as this powerful man moved to serve her. He went to the kitchenette, prepared hot milk and coffee, and brought back a package of biscuits he found in the employee's cabinet. "Eat this." Slowly, he instructed, pulling up a simple chair to sit across from her, staying at her level. Clara ate. With every sip of the hot coffee, she felt life returning to her body. The baby kicked, and she placed her hand on her belly, smiling shyly. Arthur watched the gesture, and his eyes welled up. He quickly cleared his throat to hide his emotion. When she finished, silence settled. Clara wiped the crumbs from her clothes, embarrassed. "Thank you, sir. You saved us today. I should be going now." "Going where?" Arthur asked directly. "Back to the street. I'll try to sell the rest of my bottled water when the rain stops." Arthur shook his head, refusing. "No, you are not going back to the street today." Clara shrank back. What did he want? Fear returned. Nothing is free in this world. She had learned that the hard way. "What do you want, sir?" she asked defensively. Arthur noticed her fear and leaned back slightly in his chair to give her space. "I want to offer you a job." Clara blinked, failing to comprehend. "A job? But look at me. I have no decent clothes, no education. I'm 7 months pregnant. No one hires people like me." "I do," Arthur stated. "I need someone on the custodial staff. You won't be lifting anything heavy. You won't be using harsh chemicals. You will simply maintain the organization of the meeting rooms and the kitchenette. Full-time status, health benefits, paid time off. And I can advance you your first week's pay right now to secure a decent room at a motel or rooming house." Clara started to cry. It wasn't a cry of sadness. It was the kind of crying that happens when a dam breaks because the pressure has suddenly been released. "Why?" she sobbed. "Why are you doing this, sir? You don't even know me." Arthur stood up and walked to the window, looking at the rain outside. He remained silent for a long moment. When he turned back, he no longer looked like the untouchable CEO. He looked like a wounded boy. "Because I know your pain, Clara," he said, using the name she had timidly offered while eating. My mother. She got pregnant with me when she was living on the streets. Clara's eyes widened. My father abandoned her, her family turned their backs. She slept under many awnings, just like you. She went hungry so I wouldn't. One day, she collapsed outside a store. The store owner didn't call the police. He gave her a hot coffee and a job sweeping floors. Arthur's voice cracked, thick with emotion. That man saved her life and mine. If I'm standing here today wearing this suit, owning this building, it's because someone one day looked at a pregnant woman on the street and saw a human being, not trash. My mother has passed away, but I promised that if life ever gave me the chance, I would pay that debt forward. He sat down in front of her again and held her calloused hands. You aren't an accident, Clara. You are my chance to say thank you. Do you accept the job? Clara couldn't speak. She just nodded, tears washing the grime from her face. Clara's life changed with the speed of a dream. 2 days later, she was installed in a simple but clean and dry room in a downtown rooming house. She had taken a hot shower, washed her hair, and put on the company's blue uniform, which, though a little tight around the belly, felt like a mantle of dignity. Her adaptation at the company, however, was no fairy tale. The corporate environment is a cruel ecosystem for those who don't speak the language of money. Clara felt the stares. The receptionists curled their noses when she passed. They whispered about the boss's charity case, about the supposed smell she still carried, and her lack of corporate polish. But Clara held her head high. She had a mission, to ensure that her son, Gabriel, the name she chose in homage to the announcing angel, was born with a roof over his head. She cleaned every desk with religious zeal. She polished the glass until it was invisible. And Arthur changed too. He, who always lunched at expensive restaurants with investors or ordered food into his office to avoid being bothered, started showing up in the employee cafeteria. He grabbed his tray and sat at a corner table, from where he could watch Clara working or resting. He made sure, from a distance, that no one overworked her. As the weeks passed, the boss-employee relationship began to break barriers. In the late afternoons, when the office emptied out and the setting sun painted the skyscrapers orange, Arthur would stop where Clara was finishing her shift. "How is Gabriel today?" he would ask. Agitated Mr. Arthur, kicking up a storm. "I think he's going to be a soccer player," she would reply, laughing. They talked. Clara recounted her childhood in the countryside, her simple dreams of having a kitchen with white tile. Arthur, for the first time in years, spoke about himself. He talked about how money couldn't buy company for dinner, how he felt like an actor on a stage when he was in board meetings. Clara's presence, with her raw and honest simplicity, humanized that sterile environment. Her belly grew, and along with it, an improbable friendship. One day, Clara felt a sharp pain while cleaning the conference room. She leaned against the table, letting out a soft moan. Arthur, who was passing in the hallway, heard it and rushed in. "Clara, what is it? Is it the baby?" "I don't know. It hurt bad, Mr. Arthur, but it passed now." Arthur was pale. The fear of losing that child, of failing in his mission to protect, haunted him. "We're going to the doctor. Now, you don't have to, boss, it's just exhaustion. And I don't have an appointment at the city clinic today." "Forget the city clinic. We're going to my private physician. I'm going with you." "You? But what about the meeting with the Japanese investors?" "They can wait. Grab your bag." The sight of Arthur leaving the company, supporting his pregnant janitor, caused a silent uproar. Curious and malicious glances followed them to the elevator. But there was one pair of eyes, specifically, watching everything with calculated coldness. Beatrice, the chief financial officer, CFO, stood at the door of her glass-walled office. Tall, elegant, and ruthless, Beatrice had a history with Arthur, an engagement that ended because he was emotionally unavailable. Now, seeing him dedicate all that attention and care to some nobody who came off the street, Beatrice felt something worse than jealousy. She felt her pride wounded. She watched Arthur hold Clara's purse and help her into the elevator with a tenderness he had never shown her. Beatrice crossed her arms, squeezing the silk of her blouse tightly. "Enjoy it while it lasts, darling," she murmured to the empty glass. Nobody steps onto my turf and messes up the hierarchy like this. While the elevator descended, carrying Arthur and Clara toward a moment that would further seal their connection. Hearing the baby's heart together. Upstairs, the seed of discord had just been planted. Arthur was happy, feeling useful and alive as never before. Clara was safe, feeling supported. They didn't know it, but by crossing the line that separated the professional from the personal, they had become targets. Clara's life had already transformed Arthur's, filling his void with purpose. And Arthur's life was already the pillar supporting Clara's. They were connected, and that connection was about to be tested by fire. Have you ever felt the sting of people's judgment, even when you were only trying to survive and do what's right? Evil often comes disguised as concern or rules, and what Beatrice is planning could destroy the only chance Clara has. Will Arthur have the strength to trust his heart when the evidence suggests otherwise? Or will the traumas of the past blind him? Leave a comment below. If you were Arthur and discovered the person you helped was accused of theft, would you believe her or the evidence? Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave your like if this story has touched your heart so far. Clara and Arthur's journey is just beginning, and the storm coming in the next part will shake this company's foundations. Stay tuned for the continuation. The visit to the doctor's office that day was a turning point. When the sound of little Gabriel's heartbeats filled the ultrasound room, something irreversibly changed inside Arthur. The rapid, galloping pony sound, as the doctors call it, made the high-powered executive, accustomed to negotiating millions without sweating, feel his hands tremble. He looked at Clara, lying on the exam table, her eyes full of tears, and at that moment, the invisible barrier between boss and employee crumbled. He's strong, isn't he, Mr. Arthur? She whispered, emotional. He's the strongest thing I've ever heard, Clara, he replied, and for the first time, he held her hand not to help her stand up, but to share a feeling. From that day on, the company routine transformed. Arthur, who previously lived locked away in his ivory tower, began inventing reasons to go down to the floor where Clara worked. He checked to see if she was resting, if she had eaten the fruits he had the kitchenette staff buy especially for her. Clara's belly grew, and with it, her hope. She was no longer the frightened girl from the awning. Her hair was shiny, her skin was rosy, and her smile, once timid, now lit up the corridors. She felt useful, dignified. She was saving every penny of her salary for the baby's layette. In the late afternoons, the ritual was established. Arthur dismissed his driver and insisted on taking Clara back to the rooming house. During the ride, the comfortable silence was broken by conversations about life. You need to find someone, Mr. Arthur, Clara would say, with the simplicity of someone who sees the other's soul. That big house must be awfully lonely. I got used to solitude, Clara. It's safer. People, when they get too close, usually disappoint. Not all of them, she countered, looking at the city passing by the window. You got close to me, and you didn't disappoint. That sentence echoed in Arthur's head. He was lowering his guard. He was allowing this family forged in compassion to fill the holes of his traumatic childhood. But happiness, when it is too obvious, disturbs those who live in darkness. Beatrice watched everything. The CFO saw Clara's ascent as a personal insult. It wasn't just man-woman jealousy. It was the deep-seated prejudice of someone who believes that certain people don't belong in certain places. For Beatrice, Clara was an intruder, a mess that Arthur insisted on keeping in the living room. He's enchanted, she told a colleague over coffee, distilling venom. But I'm going to open his eyes. People who come from the street carry vices that don't heal. It's only a matter of time before she shows her true colors. And since Clara showed nothing but gratitude and hard work, Beatrice decided she needed to give destiny a nudge. The plan was cruelly simple. Beatrice knew that on Mondays, Clara was responsible for cleaning the executive suite while everyone was in a meeting. She also knew that Clara left her personal purse in a locker in the service corridor, which often remained unlocked out of pure trust among the custodial team. On a rainy morning, very similar to the one when Clara was found, Beatrice took advantage of a general distraction. Wearing thin gloves to leave no fingerprints, She slipped into the service corridor. She opened Clara's worn purse and shoved inside a thick manila envelope containing a significant sum of petty cash from the department fund and 2 flash drives loaded with sensitive data on future projects. She returned to her office, smoothed her hair, and waited for the circus to start. The bomb exploded near noon. Beatrice feigned theatrical panic, screaming that the money from her office safe had disappeared, along with secret proj. CTS security was called. The search protocol began. Arthur came down from his office, worried by the commotion. "What is going on here?" he thundered. "Theft, Arthur," Beatrice exclaimed, pointing a trembling finger. "They stole the reserve fund and the new projects. Security needs to search everyone. Now." Clara was in the corner, frightened, holding the mop as if it were a shield. She had nothing to fear, she thought. She was honest. The search began. Bags were opened, backpacks were emptied. When it was Clara's turn, the guard, a man who actually liked her, hesitated. "Her bag too," Beatrice ordered, relentless. When the guard opened Clara's purse and pulled out the thick manila envelope, time stopped. The silence that fell over the lobby was heavy, suffocating. Clara looked at the envelope, bewildered. "That's not mine. I swear. I've never seen that," she screamed, desperation cracking her voice. All eyes turned to Arthur. He was paralyzed. He looked at the money, at the flash drives, and then at Clara. Beatrice approached him, whispering like a serpent in his ear. "I warned you, Arthur. You can take the girl out of the gutter, but you can't take the gutter out of the girl. They're all the same. Survivors. They take what they can. You were naive, darling." Again. Those words were a trigger. Suddenly, Arthur no longer saw Clara. He saw the distorted memories of his own childhood, of people who took advantage of his mother's fragility, of people who smiled to her face and stole behind her back. The fear of having been made a fool of having opened his heart only to be betrayed, rose like bitter bile. Doubt, that cursed seed, instantly blossomed. "Clara," Arthur said, his voice cold, distant. "Why did you do this? I gave you everything." "Mr. Arthur, for God's sake." Clara was weeping uncontrollably, her hands clutching her belly. "You know who I am. You heard my son's heart. I would never do this. Someone put that there." "Who would put it there, Clara? Who?" Arthur retorted, the hurt hardening his features. "The evidence is in your bag." He turned his back. He couldn't look at her. The pain of disappointment was greater than reason. "Arthur, what do I do? Should I call the police?" Beatrice asked, victorious. Arthur paused. He took a deep breath, feeling a sharp pain in his chest. "No, no police. I won't send a pregnant woman to jail." He turned back one last time to Clara, but didn't meet her eyes. "Grab your things, Clara, and leave. Never show your face here again." "But, Mr. Arthur, get out!" he roared, losing control for the first time in years. The shout echoed in the lobby. Clara backed away, trembling. She looked around and saw only judgment. She saw Beatrice's satisfied smirk. She saw the disappointment in Arthur's eyes. Feeling betrayed by the only person she had trusted, Clara wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Her wounded pride gave her a final surge of strength. She handed her badge back to the reception desk. She said nothing else. She just turned and walked out through the revolving door, back into the rain, back to the street, back to the world that seemed to reject her with every attempt she made to rise. Arthur went up to his penthouse office and locked the door. He collapsed into the armchair, covering his face with his hands. He thought he was doing the right thing, protecting the company, protecting himself from being duped. But why, then, did it feel like he had just committed the biggest mistake of his life? The days that followed were gray. The company felt colder. The office was clean, but it no longer had the lavender scent Clara left behind. No one asked if he had eaten lunch. Silence returned to be his only companion, but now it was an accusing silence. Arthur couldn't concentrate. The image of Clara crying, swearing her innocence, haunted him every time he closed his eyes. What if I was wrong? The question hammered away. On Thursday night, unable to go home, Arthur decided to do something he should have done the moment the incident occurred. He went to the security room. He needed to see the recordings. He needed to be absolutely sure she had betrayed him, hoping that proof might somehow rip the guilt from his chest. He replayed the moment of the search 1,000 times. Clara's surprise seemed too genuine to be acting, but the envelope was there. Frustrated, Arthur started looking at the recordings from hours earlier. Hallway camera, kitchenette camera, nothing. Is there another camera that catches the service corridor? He asked the head of security, who was practically asleep. There's an old one, Mr. Arthur, that catches the reflection on the glass door of the conference room. But the image is poor. Put it on the screen. The image was grainy, black and white. It showed the empty corridor. Arthur fast-forwarded the tape. Suddenly, movement. Someone entered the corridor. It wasn't Clara. The silhouette was tall, wearing high heels. Arthur brought his face close to the monitor, his heart pounding. The figure stopped in front of Clara's locker, looked side to side, opened the purse, took an envelope out of their own blazer and stuffed it into the janitor's bag. At that moment, the figure turned slightly, and the reflection on the conference room glass caught their face for a fraction of a second. It was Beatriz. Arthur's world collapsed for the second time that week, but now the weight was different. It wasn't disappointment. It was horror. He had expelled an innocent, pregnant woman who trusted him blindly, based on a lie planted by his own ex-fiancée. He had repeated the cycle of cruelty he had sworn to fight. He had been the monster the store owner who saved his mother was not. The fury that engulfed Arthur was volcanic. He stormed out of the security room and marched to Beatriz's office, who was still there, finishing some reports. He threw the door open with a bang. "Arthur, what is it?" she asked, startled by his expression. "You have 5 minutes to gather your things and get out of my company," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "I saw the footage, Beatriz. I saw you plant the envelope." The color drained from her face. "Arthur, I can explain. It was for your own good. For my own good." He roared, slamming his hand on the table. "You destroyed a person's life on a whim. You are terminated. And if you step foot in here again, I'm handing the footage over to the police. Get out." Beatriz ran out, humiliated. But the victory over her brought him no relief. Arthur looked out the window. The rain was pouring down torrentially. A winter storm. Where was Clara? She no longer had her salary. Had she been kicked out of the rooming house without payment? Was she on the street, in that cold, about to give birth? Panic dominated him. He grabbed his car keys and ran to the elevator. Arthur drove like a maniac through the streets of Manhattan. He went to the rooming house where he had paid for her room. The girl? She left Monday morning, said the landlady, indifferent. Said she lost her job and couldn't pay. Left with her bags in the rain. Where did she go? Arthur asked, desperate. I don't know. Folks like that go back to the hole they crawled out of. Arthur returned to the car, punching the steering wheel. He drove around the city. He went to Fifth Avenue, to the awning where he first found her. Empty. He went to the downtown parks. Nothing. The night was advancing. The rain worsened. And with every passing minute, the certainty that something terrible could happen to Gabriel and Clara crushed Arthur's heart. He stopped at every group of homeless people, rolling down the window, shouting her name, ignoring the danger, ignoring everything. He was a millionaire, the owner of an empire, but at that moment, inside his luxury car, he felt like the most miserable and impotent being on the face of the earth. He had the power to buy everything, except the forgiveness of the one he abandoned. The pain of regret is the worst there is, because it comes with the what if. What if he had trusted her? What if he had checked the cameras earlier? Now, Clara is out there, alone, at the most vulnerable time of her life, and Arthur is racing against time and his own conscience. Can you imagine the desperation of knowing that the person you swore to protect is suffering because of your mistake? Leave the word forgiveness below if you think Arthur deserves a second chance, or justice if you think what he did is unforgivable. Don't forget to leave your like and subscribe to the channel. The ending of this story will move you like you never imagined. Will he arrive in time? The next part is coming soon. The rain gave no truce. It seemed like the sky over Manhattan was crying along with Arthur, washing the dirty streets and mirroring the red tail lights on the wet asphalt. The digital clock on the car dashboard read 2 a.m. He had been driving aimlessly for 4 hours, guided only by desperation and fragments of conversations he'd had with Clara. Folks like that go back to the hole they crawled out of. The cruel phrase from the landlady echoed in his mind like a death sentence. But Arthur refused to accept it. He could not have condemned Clara and Gabriel to the same fate that nearly destroyed his own mother. He drove towards the Lower East Side. The area was a labyrinth of shadows, viaducts, and despair. Arthur stopped his luxury car, which looked like an alien spacecraft there, and got out. He didn't care about his Italian suit getting drenched in seconds, nor the very real danger of being there at that hour. He approached people huddled under awnings and viaducts. "Have you seen a girl? Pregnant, big belly, blonde, scared eyes? Her name is Clara." Most ignored him, turning away. Others asked for money. Arthur emptied his wallet, handing $150 bills to anyone who gave him a drop of attention. Clara? The girl who sold the water? A white-bearded man with missing teeth, warming himself with a silver thermal blanket, replied. "Yeah, she passed through here. She was bad. Real bad." Arthur's heart skipped a beat. Where did she go? She was hurting. A lot of pain. The women took her to the city shelter, the one near the bridge. Said the baby was coming. Arthur didn't wait to hear anything else. He sprinted back to the car, tires squealing as he pulled out. The shelter. The place where hope often dies of starvation. He knew the reputation of these places. Overcrowded, insufficient staff, environments where dignity is a scarce luxury. Arriving in front of the old, peeling building that served as the shelter, the scene was chaotic. An EMS ambulance was parked at the door, lights flashing, but no one was inside. There was yelling. Arthur pushed open the heavy iron door. The smell of crowded humanity, wet clothing, and cheap disinfectant hit him hard. The main hall was filled with bunks. "Where is Clara?" He shouted at a staff member trying to organize a soup line. "Who are you, sir? You can't just walk in here." Arthur ignored the man and rushed down the corridor. He heard a scream, a sharp cry of pain that froze his blood. It came from a side room, hastily sectioned off with wooden dividers. He ran and threw open the door. The scene he found would be etched into his memory forever. Clara was lying on a thin mattress on the floor, surrounded by 2 volunteers who looked terrified. She was pale, covered in cold sweat, her hair matted to her forehead. There was blood on the sheets. "Clara!" Hearing his voice, Clara opened her eyes. Terror took over her face. She tried to drag herself backward, protecting her belly with her hands, as if Arthur were a monster come to finish the job. "No, don't come near me," she sobbed, her voice weak. "I didn't take anything. Leave me alone." That reaction hit Arthur like a knife to the chest. The woman who trusted him, who smiled when talking about white tile, was now afraid of him. Arthur didn't stand tall. He didn't use his authority. He did the only thing his soul demanded. He dropped to his knees on the dirty shelter floor, ignoring the mud and the blood. He held Clara's hands, which she tried to pull back, and wept. The great CEO, the man of steel, was crying profusely in front of everyone. "Forgive me, Clara. For God's sake. Forgive me. I know you didn't take anything. I saw the footage. It was Beatriz. I was an idiot, a blind fool, a coward." Clara stopped fighting, stunned by his words, and the sight of that powerful man dissolved in tears. At her feet, You know? I know everything. I fired her. But that doesn't matter now. What matters is you. What matters is Gabriel. I'm here. I came to get you. I promised I would protect you both and I failed. But I swear on my mother's memory that I will never fail again. Never. A strong contraction hit Clara. She screamed, squeezing Arthur's hand with surprising force. "It hurts so much, Mr. Arthur. I think he's coming." One of the volunteers intervened. "She has a high fever and low blood pressure. The ambulance is delayed. They said the nearest public hospital has no vacancies. If this child is born here on this dirty floor, they are both at risk. Arthur stood up. Sadness gave way to fierce determination. He took off his wet blazer and wrapped Clara in it. No one is being born on this floor. He picked her up. Clara was light, fragile, but the weight of the responsibility Arthur carried was immense. He walked out of the shelter carrying her, ignoring the staff's protests. He placed her in the back seat of his car, laying her down as best he could. "Hold on, Clara. We're going to New York Presbyterian. It's close by." The drive to the elite hospital was a race against time. Arthur drove with one hand and held Clara's hand extended between the seats with the other, talking to her constantly, keeping her awake. "Remember the white kitchen? We're going to build it. Remember the layette? I'm going to buy the whole store. Just breathe. Breathe for him." When the car stopped at the emergency entrance of the hospital, the medical team was already in place. Arthur had called ahead, using his influence to ensure immediate care. Clara was placed on a gurney. As they raced down the white, clean corridors, she wouldn't let go of Arthur's hand. "Don't leave me alone. I'm scared," she whispered. "I'm not going anywhere. I'm coming in with you." And he did. Arthur, who usually passed out at the sight of blood, donned surgical scrubs. He stayed by her headboard, wiping the sweat from Clara's forehead, whispering words of courage while the doctors worked. The labor was difficult. The stress and malnutrition of the past few days took their toll. There were moments of tension when the heart monitor beeped alarmingly, and the silence in the room grew heavy. "Push, Clara. For Gabriel," Arthur pleaded, feeling his own heart stop. And then, at 4:15 a.m. on that rainy morning, the cry echoed. It wasn't a timid cry. It was a strong, full shout of life, announcing that Gabriel had arrived and that he was a survivor, just like his mother. The obstetrician, smiling behind his mask, held up the baby. "It's a beautiful, strong boy. Father, would you like to cut the cord?" Arthur looked at Clara. She was smiling through her tears, exhausted but with a divine sparkle in her eyes. She nodded. "Go ahead, Dad. He needs you." Arthur, with trembling hands, took the scissors. As he cut the umbilical cord, he felt that he was also cutting the tie to his past of loneliness and trauma. He was separating Gabriel from suffering, ushering in a new era. When the nurse cleaned the baby and handed him to Clara, Arthur leaned in and kissed her forehead. "Thank you," he said, his voice thick. "Thank you for letting me be part of this." "You saved us again," she replied, touching his face. "No, you saved me." In the days that followed, justice was served, and it was not silent. While Clara and Gabriel recovered in the hospital's best suite, surrounded by flowers and gifts, Arthur fought a battle outside. He called a general staff meeting at the company. On the auditorium screen, he didn't project profit charts, but the grainy image from the security camera showing Beatrice planting the money. The shock was collective. "I made a terrible mistake by doubting an honest person based on another's prejudice," Arthur said into the microphone, his firm voice echoing to hundreds of employees. "Beatrice has been terminated and is facing criminal charges for theft, slander, and falsifying evidence. But my mistake was greater. I judged based on appearance. I let elitism speak louder than humanity. And I apologize to all of you, because this is not the culture this company will have going forward." Clara's reputation was cleared. More than that, she became a symbol. When she was discharged, she didn't return to the rooming house, nor to the cleaning closet. Arthur took her to his home. "It's temporary," he said quickly, seeing her hesitation upon entering the luxurious penthouse. "Until you're fully recovered and we can find the perfect apartment for you both. The guest room is all set up for Gabriel. But temporary has a funny habit of becoming permanent when destiny is involved." Living together in the large house brought light to Arthur's life. The sound of a baby crying in the middle of the night, which would be an annoyance to many, was music to him. He woke up to help. He learned to change diapers, to burp, to rock. Clara, in turn, saw in that man no longer the untouchable boss, but a partner. A man who had deep wounds but was trying to heal them with love. Their relationship was built on the rock of truth and forgiveness. There was no rush for romance. There was respect. There were dinners where they talked for hours. There was the day when Clara, now studying to complete her GED and dreaming of social work college, took Arthur's hand during a movie on the couch and never let go. Love was born not of overwhelming passion, but of mutual gratitude and admiration. Epilogue. 2 years later, the Manhattan sky was blue, one of those rare, clear autumn days. In front of a renovated building downtown, a large banner fluttered in the wind. Inauguration. The Hope Foundation. There were photographers, journalists, and businessmen. But most importantly, there were ordinary people. Women with large bellies and scared eyes, holding bags with their few belongings, looking at that place as if it were an oasis in the desert. Arthur was on the makeshift stage, wearing an impeccable suit but no tie, looking younger and lighter than ever. Beside him, Clara radiated confidence. She wore an elegant dress, and her hair was down. On her lap, a 2-year-old boy, smart and smiling, clapped his hands, trying to grab the microphone. "Gabriel, let Daddy talk." Clara laughed, adjusting her son. Arthur smiled at the two of them with a tenderness that made the photographers frantically fire their flashes. He turned to the audience. "My mother, one day, needed an outstretched hand and found one. Years later, I found Clara under an awning, and I almost made the mistake of letting go of her hand because of lies and prejudice. But life gave me a second chance." He looked at the women in the audience. "This foundation is not charity. It is justice. It is to ensure that no mother has to choose between eating or having a roof over her head. It is so that children like Gabriel and like I once was have the right to dream. Starting today, the doors are open. Here there are warm beds, doctors, vocational training. But above all, there is dignity." Clara took the microphone. Her eyes swept the crowd and stopped at a young pregnant woman in the front row, who was crying silently. Clara stepped off the stage, breaking protocol, and went to her. "Don't cry," Clara said, hugging the stranger. "I've been right where you are. The pain passes. Hope remains. Welcome to your new home." While Clara comforted the young woman, Arthur watched from above. He felt a small hand tugging at his trouser leg. It was Gabriel, who had followed his mother. Arthur picked the boy up. "Daddy," the boy shouted, pointing to Clara. "That's right, son. Mommy is a queen." Arthur kissed the top of the boy's head. He hadn't just closed a cycle of pain. He had built a legacy of love. The millionaire's money had built the building, but it was the heart of the former homeless woman that transformed it into a home. And together, they proved that the twists and turns of the world are often just life putting us exactly where we should be, taking care of each other. This story shows us that the true value of a human being is not in the clothes they wear, but in the character they carry. Arthur almost lost everything by listening to malice, but he had the courage to ask for forgiveness and change. And you? Do you believe that love and forgiveness are capable of transforming any sad past into a bright future? If you made it this far and were moved by the journey of Clara, Gabriel, and Arthur, write the word family in the comments. I want to know who stayed with me until the end of this story of triumph. Don't forget to leave your like. That's very important so we can continue bringing stories like this. And subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next emotional installment. Share this video with someone who needs their hopes renewed today. Until next time.